going to introduce our presenters. Our
So
first
my name
presenter is going to be Richard Wood, who's our VP of International Development, and then Glenn Gerard is our Chief Architect for Safran Risk, and he'll be showing us the product. So without further ado, Richard, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Katie. So,
You're welcome.
as Katie said, my name is Richard Wood. I'm VP for International Development for Safran Software, and I'll be introducing the session today. Then I'll be handing over to Glenn, who will take you through the product Safran Risk itself. Our agenda is pretty straightforward. It includes a quick look at some trends in the project and risk marketplace, which we've taken account of in defining our own approach to risk analysis. Then an overview of the company Safran, because we feel it's important that you understand who's behind this product, and then we'll go through an overview of the 5 steps to reduce project risk, which is the title of our webinar today. And then Glenn will show you the product. We'll finish with some Q&A at the end, so do please send in your questions. So, project and risk management trends. In 2014, Accenture undertook a study called Developing Strategies for the Effective Delivery of Capital Projects. And they found 2 things. Not surprisingly, project complexity is rising and the accompanying risk rising along with it, which is limiting many organizations' ability to deliver projects successfully. And secondly, the result is that 70% of capital projects are over budget and 85% late or behind schedule. Now hopefully this does not apply to your company and your projects, but if it does sound familiar, we will show you today that there's a better way for risk professionals like yourselves to evaluate quantitative risks to support project decisions, to create real opportunities for organizations to identify and mitigate cost and schedule risks earlier, and throughout the project lifecycle to help reduce cost and schedule overruns. That's why we're here today. And so in a moment we'll deal with the 5 steps to reduce project risk. A.T. Kearney also produced a study in 2008 and again ran the same study in 2012 to measure changing trends between these years. They found that risk is a growing concern among business leaders. As you can see in the chart on the left, concern over risk has grown from 1.5 out of 5 to 4 out of 5 in a period of only 4 years. In addition, they found that more and more leaders are taking more interest in risk. In fact, they found that 67% of senior management are directly involved and focused on project risk management within their companies. With this growth in concern and executive involvement, there is a feeling that current tools and approaches are not providing the information required. In fact, a PwC study showed that 92% of CEOs feel that information about risk is important or critical to the business, but only 23% believe they have comprehensive information about these risks. So why Safran Risk? Well, Safran Risk has been designed to provide better project predictability. As an organization, Safran is 100% focused on project and risk management software solutions for project and asset-intensive markets. And that is all we do. We don't deliver ERP systems or anything else. Safran Risk uses our real-time scheduling engine, Safran Project, which is integrated within the Risk tool. In addition, though, customers can model risk across multiple scheduling applications like P6 from Primavera and Microsoft Project. Altogether, we bring many years of Safran, PertMaster, and Oracle Primavera development experience to this product. For example, our development team and design team includes members of the former PertMaster team, Rusty Johnson, Sarim Khan, Glenn Gerard, and Fred Dahlberg, who are working day-to-day within Safran. In addition, to ensure our product incorporates best practice and insight, we're collaborating with a very distinguished group of risk professionals outside Safran. And you can see some of those companies here, companies like ConocoPhillips, Urolog, and Risk Integrity. So, in summary, focus on project risk is rising, but tools to support this are not there today. Now that is all good for everyone on the call today because it raises the importance of what risk managers do. It underlines the need for an effective tool set to support that role and that work, and it dramatically improves sponsorship of that work at an executive level. So I'd like to take you through a quick overview of Safran the company, as it's very important to anybody intending to invest in Safran Risk. Safran has provided world-class project management software solutions to this market for over 23 years. We have thousands of users using our tools to deliver some of the most complex projects in the world, as well as some of the smaller projects that businesses deliver every day. And a key differentiator of Safran is our focus on the asset-intensive space. We are 100% focused on delivering solutions to that market. All our time, effort, and development dollars are spent on project and risk management solutions for asset-intensive companies. And we have offices in Norway, in Oslo and Stavanger, in the UK in London, and in the US in Houston in Texas. So these are some of our customers. And as you can see in this slide, companies of all sizes across the asset-intensive space leverage Safran solutions to deliver world-class projects and manage project risks. And we manage some of the largest projects in the world, like the recent ConocoPhillips turnaround in the North Sea, which was the largest ever attempted in that area and managed by Safran software. Also, Statoil, using the same Safran toolset, managed mid-sized and small projects that companies and people are responsible for delivering every day. So amongst our customers, a single toolset is used for projects that widely vary in scope and scale. And why is that important? Well, because there's another level of risk to consider with software tools. Risks of user adoption and the effective use of these tools is important and not guaranteed. Earlier I spoke of Safran's exclusive focus on the asset-intensive industries as one of our key differentiators. Well, this slide shows another key differentiator of Safran, our unified project management solution. On the left you can see the visual representation of most companies' project management environments. They have one or more solutions for project management, another for reporting, another for risk, yet another for earned value, and so on. The result is a complicated soup of technology that is difficult and expensive for the company's IT departments to integrate and maintain. Changes in one product can impact the level of integration and affect the whole portfolio. But more critically, it's an environment that is difficult for users. They have to learn multiple tools, sometimes manually transfer data between those tools, learn multiple user interfaces, and so on. The result is that users use the bare minimum of these solutions necessary to get their job done. Safran's solution is different. Unlike many of our competitors who purchase third-party tools to address each of these solution areas, requiring integration of the user interfaces or the backends, Safran built our project solution from the ground up, so all of these capabilities are in one tool with one user interface. This not only ensures fast performance, it also lowers total cost of ownership, reduces training time for users, makes user adoption far more assured, and improves time to value for the software investment. We've taken the same approach with Safran Risk. Where Safran Project is a project-focused solution with schedule risk as a single component, Safran Risk is a single risk-centric solution for both duration and cost risk, with the Safran scheduling engine at the core. Now we'll walk through those 5 simple steps to reducing project risk as a lead into the product demonstration. First of all, though, we understand that you will not necessarily have a 5-step process. Every company will be different. We're using this 5-step process purely to illustrate the process is possible within Safran Risk and to demonstrate our capability. Safran Risk can be used to capture and deploy many variants of risk process. So the first step shows one of the clearest differences between the Safran approach and other solutions. This first step is to have seamless access to the schedule within your project risk solution so that modeling can be generated with near real-time accuracy. Safran Risk uses the Safran Project Scheduling Engine, which is interoperable with many other scheduling tools, allowing for an interactive and very fast real-time review of potential project risk, as well as scenarios to mitigate those risks built directly into the included schedule. The second step is to validate the schedule integrity, modify and restructure it as required. Safran Risk quantifies both schedule and cost risk based on the impact type and distribution curves you require to realistically model each risk down to the activity level. The third step is to model and analyze risks by creating, correlating, and assigning risks at the most applicable project level. This risk mapping capability can be sorted by fields such as activity, WBS, and so on in the scheduling solution for easy and intuitive mapping. The final steps are to review the results and report. After reviewing the initial results, the risk manager can easily revert back to step 2 and validate and edit further if further modifications are required or to explore other mitigation options. The last step, step 5, is again a clear differentiator for Safran over other risk products. Reporting is a strength of Safran Risk, as well as the industry standard reports produced directly within the application, including all histograms, S-curves, and these can also be exported for inclusion in project status presentations. So with that introduction, I'd like to introduce Glenn Jarrett to show you the Safran Risk product itself. Over to you, Glenn.
Thanks very much, Richard. Good morning, everyone. I'm Glenn Jarrett. I'm the Chief Architect of Safran Risk, and today I want to show you how you can use Safran Risk to better manage risk within your organisation. So let me just, without further ado, let me start showing you the product. I guess one of the key objectives really when we were looking at designing Safran Risk was to provide an enterprise schedule and cost analysis tool. It's got all the kind of combined power of other tools that are available, but provide it in an intuitive, simple, easy to use, process-driven user interface. So Richard there mentioned the 5 steps, and I'm going to be taking you through those 5 steps today. But before we get on to the first step, which is schedule, I just want to talk briefly about the screen you can see here, the opening screen within the product, which is our global risk screen. Now, global risks you can maybe think of perhaps as a template where you can assign risks across your entire organisation, and those risks can then later be pulled into any applicable projects for further analysis. Now that provides a number of advantages. One is those impacts are then actually tracked thereafter against the risk at the enterprise level. And because we are very much focused on quantitative analysis, in other words, numbers, we can then actually look excuse me, at the impact of those risks across various projects. Okay, so that's just a brief bit on global risks. I'm going to talk in detail about how you create risks as we move on through the process. Okay, so let's start with step 1, which is schedule. Richard has already mentioned that we have a fully integrated scheduling tool, but as Richard mentioned, I could equally have taken this schedule from Primavera, from Microsoft Project, or indeed from the Safran project itself. So it's very flexible in terms of where it can come from. A very key, again, a big differentiator for us really having this integrated scheduling environment is that we can not only create our own schedules in here, we can also filter that schedule by any codes we like, and I'll show you later why that's very important when we, particularly when we're going through the mapping process. Okay. So now I've opened up a project. You'll notice along the top there's a number of tabs have become available to us, and this is really we're talking about our sort of process-driven user interface. So you can see that this is it's a non-prescriptive process, but it does sort of just help guide you through really. So all of the tabs that you can see on the left-hand side of the green analyze, these are all our risk inputs, and all the tabs you can see on the right-hand side are all our risk outputs. So clearly laid out, and again, you don't have to take them one by one, but it's just a suggested approach. So a couple of brief things on the schedule, and then we'll move on to actually start looking at some of the risk capabilities. So I guess you can see here this schedule is organised in in outline view, and we have a number of summaries. We have preliminaries, design, fabrication, construction, etc. I won't go through them all in detail. Another interesting thing that happened when we actually opened the schedule, and one of the most important things obviously about any schedule risk analysis is of course the schedule itself and the quality of that schedule. So constantly, while you're either opening a project or creating a project, in Safran Risk we're monitoring that schedule for any potential issues that may cause problems during a risk analysis. So obviously things like hard constraints are not a particular good thing when you need a free-flowing schedule. So that brings us nicely onto our next tab, which is schedule warnings, and this is sort of step 2 of the process really. This is the validate and edit part of the process. So if I look at all my warnings, you'd obviously typically expect to see a couple of warnings in here. You're going to have a minimum of an open end at the start and an open end at the finish. Here you can see I have well, 3 other items. I have a couple of tasks with a very small lag on. I'm not going to worry too much about those. But I also have a constrained activity with a must finish on constraint. And obviously if this is a hard constraint, and this could be very detrimental to the analysis. So if I want to look at that, I can just go straight to that task, and it takes me right to that activity in question, and sure enough I can see that this does have a must agree contract, has a finish on constraint of the 25th of March. So let me remove that constraint. If I rerun my check, you can see, okay, that's now clear. And I could equally, if I wanted to accept these, I could just put some brief notes on these and accept them, and then there you'll see that I've got 0 sort of bad warnings that I need to worry about left. So that's the ideal state really. You want to get in a position where there's nothing that you're overly concerned about. Obviously you know your schedules better than anyone else, so once you're in a position where you're happy with the schedule, then you can move on. And again, this isn't going to stop you running the analysis, but it is important that it's there to help you really, and to inform you of any issues you might have. Okay, so we've now in this case we've opened our schedule, we've validated it, so now we're ready to move on to the model and analyze part of the process, and that takes us to our project risks. So we'll talk a little bit more detail about risks now we're on project risks. So these are items that we can go ahead in a moment and map to any part of our project. So they're kind of, if you like, they're in 2 categories here, all within the one simple register. You can see we have a number of risks that are what we call traditionally risk events that have a probability of sort of less than 100% of occurring. And then we also have some risks at the bottom here. These are just ones I've created. They're not, you can create as many as you like, and we have a low uncertainty, a medium, and a high uncertainty. So as well as creating risk events, you can also create levels of uncertainty and easily map that to the project. So let's briefly talk about the impacts you can assign. Here, for example, we're looking at the impacts of strategic risks, so our change in strategic direction. And this particular risk has 2 impacts. It has a schedule impact and a cost impact. Now the schedule impact is a relative kind of impact, and in this case it has a triangular distribution of between 90 and 250%. So that's basically saying any activities that this particular risk is assigned will impact those activities in a range between those percentages of the deterministic duration. And on the cost side, this is actually the impact on this is absolute, and it's in a uniform distribution between 10 and 25,000 in this case pounds. So this will actually add, it's an absolute impact, so this will add an additional between 10 and 25,000 pounds to any activities that that particular impact happens to be assigned. Okay, now as well as actually creating specific project risks in here, I mentioned global risks, and we can of course pull in any Any particular global risk we like and include that in our project, and that's going to save us some effort if we have risks that we want to use. You can then override the impacts if that's applicable. But, so really that's the risk creation side of things. Now, the great thing about the kind of risk factors approach that we've taken in Safran Risk is that it does provide you with a natural kind of correlation. But obviously, in addition to the sort of natural correlation you get with risk factors, there are many instances, of course, in the real world where you want to be able to model various sort of real-world situations that you can only do if you can perform full correlation. So that brings us on to our correlations area. Now, many systems either don't have full detailed correlation available, or it's very complex to actually create correlations in some other tools. So what we try to do here is provide a user interface that's very simple, straightforward, and as you can see, it's very Excel-like in its look and feel. And here you can see that we've listed all the risks. These are all the project risks. And we have all the impacts and the probability in the matrix. Now this means that we can actually assign any combination of probability or impacts. We can correlate any combination together. So for example, if I look at one here, we can see that the probability of procurement delays has a 60% correlation to the probability of external communication. But we don't need to assign correlate one probability to another. We could correlate a probability to a schedule impact or a schedule to a cost impact. Any combination is possible, and it's also possible in hopefully you'll agree a very simple mechanism. Okay, so we've got our schedule now. We've validated it. We have our risks. We've used correlations to create a very realistic real-world model. The next thing we need to do, of course, is to actually sit down and assign some of these risks to our schedule. So this is where we envisage this. Probably, perhaps if you do in your organisation run risk workshops, we'd say this is probably one area where you maybe would spend the most time in a workshop kind of environment. And you can see on the left-hand side we have the schedule, in this case with the ID and description of the activities, and across the top we have all of the risks. Now, Richard actually alluded to this earlier. What you can do, obviously this is a relatively small schedule. If you have thousands of lines, you can actually use all the power within the scheduling tool itself to actually filter by anything, and I mentioned this also earlier, so maybe by activity code or WBS, and any filtering that you perform within here is automatically replicated in the risk mapping view. So if you do want to just go through and look at one particular WBS at a time, very simple to just create filters and be able to look at those independently. Now, again, we're very aware that people take different approaches to risk analysis. Some people like to sort of take a bottom-up approach, and other people like to take more of a top-down approach, depending on a number of factors. So we're trying to sort of cater for both worlds in here, really, and make it simple for both. So, for example, if I wanted to assign procurement delays to, let's say, the whole of our phase 1 testing, I can just click on the top level and it will automatically assign that risk to the entire summary. So very simple, but equally, if I want to just assign it to an individual activity, then I can obviously do that very easily as well. On the right-hand side, you can actually see the risks that are assigned to each activity. So here we're looking at the risks that are assigned to test guidance, and you can see this has an ash cloud and testing overrun, and we can easily view the distribution shapes that are associated with each of those risks. Also, you might notice we have either series or parallel. So what this allows us to do is if we have a very large risk, something that's going to overshadow all the other risks, then we can make all the risks impact in parallel, and then it'll only take the impact of the largest risk. Otherwise, if we have smaller risks, then we typically look at creating those more in a series style, so their impacts would be sort of cumulative. Okay, so that's our mappings area. Now we should move on to the last part of step 3, which is to actually start and run the analyze. So just to be consistent with a number of other tools, we're going to, in this particular sample, we're going to simulate 1,000 iterations of the project. And in this case, you can see we have all the risks listed on the left-hand side, and we can, if we like, we can include or exclude any risks and rerun the analysis if we want to do some kind of what-if or comparison analysis, and I'll come on to that shortly. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run the analysis with all the risks included. So this is, as we said, this is simulating 1,000 iterations, and I'm sure this is a report you're very familiar with, and this sort of takes us on to the start of step 4, really, which is to start reviewing all of the results that we have from the analysis. Now here we're looking at the overall project distribution, or the distribution of safety for the overall project. Likewise, we could actually look at the distribution for any particular milestone or phase within our project. All the data is there and readily available to be viewed. A couple of things on here. I'm sure you're very familiar with this kind of report, so I won't dwell for too long, but you can see that our deterministic finish date of the 7th of, which is the 7th of September, has a 13% probability of being hit based on the risks we have assigned. Our P80 date, we need some 5 months contingency if we happen to be working at a P80 confidence level. I should also mention here that all of the reports that you're looking at here are also available. You know, we have full cost analysis as well. We're focusing on sort of on finish dates and durations just for sort of brevity within this particular webinar, but it's all available for cost as well. So this is obviously great. It's very useful. It tells us the spread of risk we have on this particular project, but of course what it doesn't tell us is what's causing that spread, what's driving it. So let's move on to our drivers, and we'll take a look. So here we have a split view of our risk drivers, and on the left-hand side you can see that we have the risks, and on the right-hand side we have the activities. So in this case we can see that ash cloud and testing overrun are definitely the largest risks that we perhaps want to consider doing something about, if indeed we can do anything about them. And also, if we look at the right-hand side, we can see the activities sort of prefixed with the T are our testing tasks. So you can see that definitely the testing section summary area of our plan obviously is an area that we should probably be focusing on based on the results of this tornado. Now, obviously, again, this is very useful information, and it does tell us which of the, gives us a view of which are the primary risks driving the delay on our project. But what it doesn't actually tell us is how much these risks are delaying us. So for that, we'll move on to our sensitivity analysis. Now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to run our calculate impacts. Now what this is doing is this is actually rerunning the entire analysis, all in this case all 1,000 iterations. The first time it's running it, it's actually including all the risks, so as if I've just run the analysis normally. And then each subsequent time it run the analysis, it's actually excluding one risk at a time and analysing the impact of each individual risk. So on here you can see kind of a split view. On the right hand side you can see the curves, and the colours obviously correspond to the colours you can see in the excluded risks. So ash cloud is kind of a browny line, etc. The all risks, the kind of risk baseline is our black curve. It's sitting just here. So it gives us both a visual representation of where everything sits if we mitigate any one risk, and on the left-hand side it gives us a precise value at different confidence levels of how much these risks are impacting us. So here, for example, we're looking at an 80% confidence level, and at that particular confidence level we can see that this is actually telling us is if we were to fully mitigate our ash cloud risk, then at an 80% confidence level we would save ourselves 52 days, testing overrun 43 days, and we'd also save just short of £85,000 for our ash cloud if we fully mitigated it. Now obviously we might not be working to P80, so we can look at these impacts at any percentile. We like all this data is held, so if we want to look at say 60%, the 60 percentile. What's interesting here is we can now see actually the risk that's driving, that has the most significant impact, is actually not ash cloud anymore. It is in fact testing overrun, but it does allow us to simply and easily quantify exactly how much these risks are impacting. Another thing we can see very easily is that we not only have some threats on here, but we also have an opportunity, a couple of opportunities, but one fairly reasonably large opportunity, and that's to outsource. So this is telling us that at a 60% confidence level, we're currently saving 20 days based on outsourcing. So that's not, obviously we don't want to mitigate an opportunity. That's not going to do us any favors. So and again, all of this information, both the data and the charts themselves, can be exported out and included into reports for reporting on to stakeholders or other interested parties. Now, this obviously is a very automated process and it gives us some useful information on each individual risk, but we might want to look at things in a slightly more flexible way. So to allow for that, what we can also do is we can actually, if I send this curve first of all, we can actually use our distribution comparison report. So I've just gone into the original analysis and just sent that over to the comparison chart, and now maybe I want to compare the curve with all of the risks actually impacting to perhaps, let's say I want to switch off a number of risks, and I want to just look at what the impacts would be if I somehow had mitigated all these risks, and just look at the impacts of external communications and mergers or acquisitions. Okay, so I can run it with just those on and send that curve, and you'll see, well, that's almost a straight line really, but I can use this to compare and contrast any combination I like at all of these risks. So that's a view of the report. So I think now we've looked at sort of step one, schedule. We've validated, we've edited the schedule, we've modeled and we've analyzed it, we've reviewed our results, and we've seen we can create reports from by exporting any of these charts. We actually have an advanced critical path analysis coming online very shortly in the next few days, so please just let us know if you want to have a good look at that too. That's going to be very exciting. And with that, really, that's the product demonstration complete. I'll hand back to Richard. Thank you.
So I've just got a couple of slides that I wanted to finish off with. Thank you for that product demonstration, Glenn. Safran has not developed Safran Risk in a vacuum. We're actively engaged with several thought leaders in this space to capture best practice and build that into our design. And you can see a couple of quotes here from PMI and from Eurolog, who have been participating with us and helping us do that. In fact, in a couple of cases, New features have been suggested from these engagements which we've built into the product. So just to summarize, why Safran Risk? Well, there are many benefits that Safran Risk offers to risk and project professionals tasked with the challenge of ensuring project predictability. The built-in scheduling engine, Safran Project, gives fast performance and ease of use. An easy-to-understand process-led user experience, as you've seen in the demonstration, allows us to flexibly capture best practice. We saw risk mapping earlier on, which is very powerful, and the risk readiness schedule checking ensures high-quality risk analysis. Comprehensive risk correlations, which we also saw earlier, and the integrated and best-in-class reporting, which is a real differentiator for Safran Risk. So now I'd like to pass control back to Katie, who can tell us what questions have been posted during the webinar.
So the first question is, what other project control software can be integrated with Safran Project and Safran Risk?
It's basically, at the moment, we can bring in schedules from either Primavera or from Microsoft Project. They're the areas that they're the sort of systems that we integrate with right now. I'd be interested to know if there's other systems out there people would be interested in integrating to. Typically, if there is another system, you can usually bring them in perhaps via Microsoft Project. So there are usually ways to bring in schedules from any other scheduling environment using one of those two mechanisms. So they're the two main ones we've supported from the start.
Okay, maybe I could just add one thing there. It sounded like the question was fairly general, and that's, I think in terms of today's webinar, as you say, Glenn, Safran Risk can take schedules from a number of other scheduling engines, but in a more general way, Safran Project and Safran Risk will integrate with a number of other project control systems. So we have an SAP interface, for example, and we can interface with SAP PM, therefore, for asset management information, or Maximo. So the number of interfaces in terms of project controls is really very wide, and we've got customers integrating with many, many different project controls environments, because Safran Project does have a very open interface that allows that to happen. So hopefully that will be a good rounded answer, Katie. Is there another question?
Yes, there are a couple more. These are much more specific than that one. So here it's a scenario that we've been given. So the scenario is, using brand X, I move data from the planning system into the risk system where I perform tasks like probabilistic branching. Can you talk about a planner or risk manager that cannot be written back to the enterprise-wide planning system? So I have created a standalone island of information that cannot be shared with all of the existing planning users. Does Safran offer a better route to integration of my risk results with the planning community?
Okay, so maybe I can summarize that question. I think what's being said is, if information is passed from a scheduler into Safran Risk and it's risk analyzed, what then happens to that information? Does it have to stay there in Safran Risk, which means the content can't be passed back for the use of the planners very easily, or can it be passed back into the schedule engine it came from, where the planners can take cognizance of that analysis? I think I can answer that, but Glenn, I'll ask you to jump in first.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I actually read it very slightly differently, and that's is it actually an island of information at all? Because in terms of the risk information, although we're looking at here this is running in a standalone environment, Safran Risk and Safran Project can both run as enterprise tools. So all this risk data that you're looking at now isn't just available to me as an individual user, but is actually also available to anybody who has Safran Risk, who is signed in my organization. So there is access to all this data to anybody within the enterprise, basically, from a risk perspective. But that's my answer from the risk point of view. I don't know if you want to...
Okay, but if you then take a Safran or an XVR file, a Primavera file, into Safran Risk and you analyze it, can you then pass that information back into the Safran planning environment, for example, where Safran Project is being used?
You can only pass back sort of certain key pieces of information right now. So, and we're not actually updating information in the sort of the source schedules, if you like, anything that's come in from, for example, Primavera or Microsoft. But that's that's for obvious reasons. We don't believe that you should be updating sort of the native schedules from within.
Okay.
In here, so, yeah.
Okay, but as enterprise systems, the data is available for inspection and for use by anybody in the organization. Okay,
absolutely, good. Absolutely.
Okay. Katie, what's the next question, please?
The next question is, can we add a new category of risk, for example, value or benefit delivered or quality, safety, etc.?
I'm assuming that's in respect to the fact that we currently have a category of schedule and cost. I would imagine that question is referring to. You can't actually add your own categories. You will be able to add, we will have a full sort of RBS structure, so you can organize the data by any value you like, basically, to be able to sort of slice and dice it, if you like, and get the data back. We will also be adding a number of other categories. So there's a lot of things coming up, sort of probabilistic calendars, weather modelling, etc., and many other features that will be adding categories to this. And actually, in addition to this, this whole application is going to be opened up, so you will actually be able to do some more advanced analysis, and actually even to the point of being able to add in your own tabs and capabilities into it. So the plan is to have a very open environment for people to be able to work with.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. Actually, someone, a delegate to the webinar, has just sent in an interesting comment on the previous question about the availability of this information enterprise-wide, and reminded me to say that we are developing a risk dashboard which will sit on top of this product, this Safran Risk product, which will be available in the near future, which will make the risk analysis easily digestible and available to anybody in the organization. So that's a really good comment. Thank you. Katie, any more questions?
Yes, we've got a couple more. Next question is, will Safran Risk be marketed as a risk tool that can be independent of Safran Project, or will it always be bundled with it?
That must be you, Richard.
It's a bit of a strange question in a way, because the Safran Project is not obviously, I don't quite know how to put this, but it's not a commercial component, and it's not obviously a component of Safran Risk, in the sense that although it's the schedule that drives the product, well, it will always be included, yes. Safran Risk will always be working with Safran Project, but schedules can be brought in from other products and analyzed and then passed back to those products, like Primavera, for example. So I don't see it as a limitation. I see it as a real strength, and I'm not quite sure where the questioner is coming from. Glenn, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure I really. I mean, basically, the sort of the risk product will come with the project scheduling environment sort of built into it. So. Yeah.
I think you need to see the fact that Safran Projects is included within Safran Risk is purely there because it gives very fast performance, very fast processing, and makes the whole of that schedule available in real time to the risk engine. But the fact that it's Safran Project is almost irrelevant. It's because it is that intelligence and that speed that we need, and it doesn't. It's agnostic to the source of the scheduling information. So I don't think it actually matters at all that it's Safran Project in that sense. I hope that's an adequate answer.
So we got a response from the person that asked that question. He said he's happy with the answer.
Okay, good.
He understands the concept. That's good. Thank you.
Okay, good.
One more.
Okay.
When is the product available?
Must be you, Richard.
Okay, well, so the product has been available for a month or so now as a beta test product, and the organizations I've mentioned, Eurolog and so on, have been helping us beta test it. Those changes and revisions that came out of that beta testing are currently being implemented, and the first production release of the product, I don't have the date exactly in front of me, but it's a month away or thereabouts, so very close to our first commercially available production release of Safran Risk.
Yeah, I think just as a sort of slight addition to that, we are looking at there will be a second beta release that will be coming out within the next week or so, and then following up on the back of that, as Richard says, sort of sometime sort of early April-ish will be the actual release product. So.
I've just been told the date's actually April the 2nd, so April the 2nd it will be available.
Just want to tell folks who are still hanging in there with us, thank you everyone for staying with us for the whole show. We appreciate that. Obviously, there are probably going to be some questions that come out of this presentation. We'd really like you to just get in touch with us at sales@safran.com if you have questions, if you'd like to see more of the product. We got one more question, so I'm going to stop there and take one more question. Which Safran project version will be minimum requirement for the new Safran Risk?
It'll be tied in with the Safran 7 version. So, but again, it'll be packaged with it. So.
Yeah, I think we're not explaining this quite clearly enough. So, Safran Project is not. You don't have to buy Safran Project to use Safran Risk. The scheduling engine that is represented by Safran Project comes embedded and included within Safran Risk. So which version of Safran Project it is actually completely transparent and invisible to any Safran Risk user. It's not relevant in that sense. It's just the intelligence of Safran Project that we're including with the product. So whether it's Safran 5, Safran 7, Safran 8, it actually doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, and I guess people may be asking from a perspective of perhaps if they already do have Safran Project and have a certain version of it. If the question was aimed from that sort of angle, then
okay.
Then I mean I don't know. I'm guessing, but if it was, then obviously whichever version you have at the moment, providing it's on a supported path, which I'm sure it will be to version 7, then it'll be absolutely fine, and you can bring in anything you like. So
okay.
Thanks everybody for your questions. So obviously, just get in touch with us. We'd like to tell you much more about Safran Risk, and there are going to be a number of opportunities for you to learn more. We're happy to give you detailed product overviews. Get in touch with us at sales@safran.com. Did you want to talk about some events that are coming up, Richard?
Yes, certainly. We have 2 roadshows coming up. They're coming up in March, and they will be advertised and available on our website for you to register and join us. On March the 24th, we have one in London, UK. There's the following day, on March the 25th, we have a Safran Risk Roadshow in Aberdeen. And then on March the 26th, there'll be one in Stavanger. And here we have a keynote speaker certainly for London and Aberdeen. The keynote speaker is from Eurolog. And then we'll have a demonstration of Safran Risk to follow. Both events are lunchtime events, so don't take a lot of time out of your working day, and they move into the afternoon following lunch with the agenda. So we'd love to see you there. If you'd like to join us, please get onto our website, safran.com, register there, and we'll see you in London, Aberdeen, or Stavanger.
Thanks everybody for joining us, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye for now.